So over the last few days and even today, we've had a bunch of rumors hit the internet for different things. And I figure we'll pretty much just cover a bunch of the different rumors here in one video rather than make a bunch of different videos, just to make it a bit easier to kind of go over everything all at once. And there were some pretty good rumors, I think, going around. One was actually posted by EB Games, so it's a bit strange because it's on their official account. It's odd. We'll go over that one. Also, some PlayStation 5 leaks. One that looked pretty good, but we'll talk about that. And then something I'm really hoping is correct, which is a new Star Wars games, or at least a reimagining of an old Star Wars game. So exciting stuff there, guys. If you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. We're going to start with EB Games Canada. Actually, we'll jump over here. This is the tweet that they put out saying Street Fighter V Champion Edition is heading to Nintendo Switch. Pre-order now in store. So looking at this, I mean, they show some screenshots as well right below this. I'm a little surprised that this would be the way that it would be announced. Now, it's always possible that there would have been a scheduled tweet or in some way they have something set up so that they have a social media manager and they have this set up and they're like, oh, this is going to go out now. It is odd that it would have been EB Games Canada, because remember, it was Walmart Canada that started leaking a bunch of stuff with Bethesda and Rage 2 and some other things. And Bethesda even kind of made mention of that and made fun of Walmart Canada a bit. So it is funny now that we're talking about EB Games Canada apparently saying that Street Fighter V Champion Edition is going to the Switch. Now, we, of course, have been expecting a Direct for the past few weeks now, and I will say it looks like we're actually going to get into February before there is a Direct. I am not really expecting one this week coming up. I think we're going to be a week or two into February before we see it, and I guess Nintendo might be moving more to a maybe like a 3 directs a year type thing at this time and some smaller directs kind of sprinkled in there. So it's possible, I'll say possible, that this could be something that would have been set up for that direct. It's also very possible that this is a typo. It could just say Street Fighter V Champion Edition is heading to PlayStation 4, pre-order now in store, although we kind of already know that there's a Champion Edition anyway, so that would have been a weird announcement to do. This actually would be pretty big considering Street Fighter V has been Sony's thing, right, on the PlayStation. I believe they helped fund it with Capcom. So that would be an odd thing to see happen, but it would, I think, add a bit of a wake up to that series in general that's kind of been just hanging out. I mean, yes, Capcom keeps adding more and more fighters and they keep adding more and more additions, even though I thought they said they weren't going to do that, but they keep doing it anyway. But considering this game's been stuck on the PlayStation this whole time, yes, moving it to something like the Switch would give the game some new life, I guess. But I do still look at this cautiously, I'll say, because this could just be EB Games Canada making a mistake, putting a tweet out there that's just incorrect, although at the time of the recording, it's still up. So either they messed up and accidentally put it out there, or they just said, hey, you know what, we're apparently announcing this. I'm kind of more on the former on that one. Next, we'll move over to the PlayStation 5 and the Series X, and most of this has to do with the Series X, but it kind of shows where Sony may be working towards having the advantage over the Series X if it's not going to be just raw compute power, as you hear teraflops getting thrown all over the place, right? That's the big thing people will measure it by, but there are other things around these consoles, whether it's the ray tracing that we see NVIDIA do with RTX and all of that. Maybe one system handles it better than the other, right? It's very possible. Let's say the PS5 handles it better than the Series X. That's very possible. Or what if one system's SSD was faster than the other? This was probably going to be the case either way, and I kind of thought it might be a smaller, like negligible difference, like it wouldn't even really be noticeable, and to be honest, it still might not be noticeable, but there is a chance, as you can see, that the Xbox Series X, more of a budget PCIe 4.0 SSD, could be half the speed of the PlayStation 5. This was actually put up on Twitter, going through LinkedIn, and seeing a couple of different things from a Phison employee, just detailed the SSD controller that was installed into the Xbox Scarlett, and it's a chip that only supports sequential read-write speeds equivalent to a standard PCIe 3.0 NVMe. Now, That would, of course, come in at about half from what we're hearing with the PS5, which is looking to be like the fastest SSD, like the fastest storage device inside of a system, even compared to current SSDs, as it looks like they're going to lean towards Samsung, that I believe just showed off some very, very fast controllers that they're using paired with PCIe 4.0 and some of these SSDs. Now, you might be wondering, what kind of a difference will that make? Let's say it is twice as fast. Well, the big thing, like if you go from a mechanical drive like what's in the current systems to an SSD, the biggest difference that people actually notice when they turn their computer on has more or less to do with random read-write speed, as in calling to the system and the drive looking for different things on, say, startup, right? Whereas with a mechanical drive, it has to seek, it takes time, basically it's waiting in line, whereas with an SSD, it's just basically sprinting down one big runway for the most part, right? You don't really get bottlenecked like you do with a mechanical drive, and that's where the biggest difference is, and what a lot of these developers keep talking about. And of course, we've even heard Mark Cerny himself say, hey, you might be surprised because file sizes might get a bit smaller, considering things will be more efficient because developers won't have to put the same lamppost like 50 times in these game files, right? And that's just a lamppost. And you can tell that these file sizes recently have been very, very bloated. And a lot of it has to do with the hard drives that are in there because of the access time and the random reading and writing. Whereas an SSD pretty much has that down with a massive advantage over mechanical drive. Of course, speeds are also much faster, especially when you get into NVMe. I question how different things will be overall when it comes to just overall transfer speeds. We're talking like 3.7 gigabytes or 3,700 megabytes, for example, compared to like 7,000 megabytes. That sounds like a lot, but the thing that I'm really curious about is just the overall random read-write, and if it's going to be something we notice when it comes to games and how they'll be able to use that transfer speed. That's the big question, but I don't think it's as clear-cut as it just being half the speed, because things like startup and actually navigating the menu, it'll have a lot to do with how they just develop and pretty much set that up in accordance with the SSD. But I think if both make a call to open a menu, for example, it'll basically be a wash when it comes to advantage on that. It'll really come down to the games, specifically, I guess you could say like the big open world games where a lot of stuff is all loading up. That could be where we see an advantage. A very funny rumor that really got put out there was seen as like this PS5 leak, and that's, I think, just someone messing around and having some fun, because none of this actually makes sense if you really think about it, and we'll kind of talk about that here very quickly. So this was a video that was posted by OBY1, and they seemingly posted a video showing the PlayStation 5 turning on, at least a PlayStation 5 dev kit, maybe. It's kind of hard to say what they were really going for here, if they wanted people to believe that they had like a full retail unit, although even like it's starting up and everything looks like a dev kit, so I guess that's what they were trying to convince people that they had. But it goes through a full cycle here, and you could see it then kicks on, and at that point they have what looks like a PlayStation 5 startup, but there's a lot of stuff going on here that doesn't really add up. They also seem to show the PlayStation 5 off to the right, and then it'll get close to the end here. By the way, I do like what they've done here with this mock-up, because this isn't an actual thing. They're either playing around with the idea, having fun with what I think is a virtual machine built in for their PC for a development environment, but they seem to have something, an error with QR, so they decided to go to YouTube to show it. That's kind of funny, because Sony probably would be like, yeah, don't upload that to YouTube, even unlisted, because even unlisted, it's getting passed around after being found. Most likely it was just shared as kind of a joke. But this is using the old Google Play symbol at the bottom left. However, in the beginning, when they're going through all of those command lines and everything, it actually has the Orbis OS at the top that's currently used on the PlayStation 4. And it also comes up as VMware for CD-ROM drive, which tells me that it's being done in a virtual environment that's probably just set up for their PC. And everything you saw after that, where it kind of goes to the PS5 and everything, is most likely just them playing around with it, making a custom little menu and setup for it to run. And then that's what we see there. Now, off to the right, you do see a machine, but it could be anything. I mean, to be honest, it could even be a Blu-ray player is what I thought at first. And the little beep could just be the PS4 being turned on outside of the frame here. So I think it's a clever fake. I don't think it's real at all, though, and I think a lot of what I just said pretty much proves that. But it was just a fun little video to see, and it got passed around, and people are wondering, is that the PS5 right there? No. And we're going to finish up with a rumor that I hope is absolutely true. I really, really want to believe this one, because as you're seeing, it says Knights of the Old Republic Remake might be back in the cards. And I was absolutely blown away when I saw this, because I want this to happen. I know it's EA. I know. And you can read more about this below where I have some of the sources, but I know it's EA, so I'm very unsure, very hesitant right away with that. Although I did also see what they did recently, right, with Star Wars, and that was very, very good. I mean, seriously, after playing through Fallen Order, I would actually like to see Respawn pick up Knights of the Old Republic and maybe try to do that, because that's what's being said here. So Cinelinx actually says that something is going on right now with Knights of the Old Republic. Originally, we had heard that EA might have been trying to do a remake. This was years and years ago, and then it kind of fizzled out and nothing really came of it. But this says, according to one, the previously mentioned Knights of the Old Republic remake is back in development. My other source added to that, saying they felt it wasn't so much a remake, but a sequel. That's right, a sequel of sorts. It would be a Knights of the Old Republic project that would integrate elements from the first two games in order to bring certain things into the current Star Wars canon. Not necessarily a remake, so much as reimagining. I like that idea. Now, recently, we've seen Revan actually become canon, really kind of be part of the universe with the cinema and the store and in the movies, and that was really cool to hear that, because then I started to hope that they were going to have some plans around Knights of the Old Republic or KOTOR. And if this rumor ends up being correct, that would be amazing. Most likely, it would end up being an Xbox Series X, PlayStation 5 kind of setup there, so it'd probably also look amazing. And it really comes down to who they get to do this, because I know BioWare is initially is the thought, but man, I'm gonna be honest, I'm losing some confidence in BioWare recently, especially with Anthem and Mass Effect and what's all gone down there. I'm losing a little bit there. Now, they are, of course, seemingly working on Dragon Age, so maybe that can redeem them a bit. But if this is on now, are they really going to have BioWare do it? Because BioWare is working on Anthem, Dragon Age. Do we really want them to also work on a reimagining Knights of the Republic, or should they pass that off to someone else? Like I said, Respawn would be interesting to let them take a shot at it. They did very well with Fallen Order, and that was a bit different from what they've done before, so why not let them take a shot at it? Also, at least then we know there probably wouldn't be any microtransactions or any craziness in there, because somehow Respawn has that pull. I don't know. They do. Fallen Order still doesn't have microtransactions, and I'm amazed. But I mean, technically Need for Speed doesn't yet either, so wow. I mean, who knows? Maybe EA's turning over a new leaf with some of these properties, and they'll keep all of that, we'll say junk, that microtransaction junk with FIFA. But yeah, those are some interesting rumors, guys, for today that I wanted to go over. Let me know what you think about any of those rumors down below. A lot of stuff to go over there, whether it's Street Fighter V Champion Edition on the Switch by EA Games Canada, or EB Games Canada, putting that out there. It's strange. Or Knights of the Old Republic getting a remake or reimagining, I hope so, or even the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5. Do you think that's where Microsoft's going to try to save money, is with that SSD inside of the Xbox Series X, maybe making it a little bit slower, maybe a little bit last generation, but then also putting a lot of money into the overall system specs when it comes to graphical horsepower? Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.